Hey, what's up Exiles? Welcome back to a brand new video. For today, I have for you an Arc Lightning Archmage mana based build. It's one of those builds that are currently meta in 3.10 Delirium League, and I have decided to have my own approach on this build because, believe it or not, I have never actually played a mana based build like Mind Over Matter with life, because I have never actually felt that I can make my own version tanky enough. And yeah, you guys know me, I don't like just copying builds. I like to make my own twists on them. And I think I have managed to pull something off here. It's my own take on the Archmage, Arc Lightning, one-shot everything build. And this time we have an Occultist, which I bet no one have tried this before. Why an Occultist? Because we have free power charges every time you spend 200 mana. This is the main reason why I've decided to go with an Occultist. Now, this is not the only thing that we utilize with the Ascendancy. We utilize every other node. They all do something, but this one was the main, the one that gave me the idea of going with an Occultist. Here's the thing: when you play Archmage build, your mana cost is so high that spending 2 mana is nothing. Every time you cast something, you will get a power charge, and this means you have maximum power charges all the time. You can generate them easily. And when we say power charge with a spellcaster, we say also void batteries. And yeah, I don't want to spoil the itemization. So as I said, this is a power charge based build, and it's solely based on this node. So yeah, you go for Forbidden Power. That's free power charges, which means 40% crit chance for every power charge. We have 9 in this build by taking every single power charge node in the passive tree. We have 3 on the tree. +1 from here, that's 4, and +3 from the character, that's 7, and finally we have 2 from each wand we are using, so that's 9. And the added crit chance is nice. I have seen some people that goes Archmage with Elemental Overload, because when you want to stack lots of mana and life, you will not have sufficient space to invest with crits. Still, I have decided to do that, and it ended up actually working just fine, although we don't have the highest amount of life ever, because when you invest into too many things like mana, life, crit, and generic damage, it becomes difficult to focus on one thing. You will have a little bit less on the defense side, but as a Mind Over Matter build, yeah, you will actually have higher effective life than what I have over here. Our effective life is something around 7,000, not including our energy shield, which by the way is good because we have Vile Bastion. This one gives us can't be stunned while we have energy shield. Here's the trick: yes, we don't have the highest amount of energy shield. It's not an ES based build, but because this node gives you some regen, active regen every second, this means that you can't be stunned almost all the time, because unless you are taking damage over time, your shield will keep regenerating before you take the next hit. So I can't be stunned more than 90% of the time, so that's almost can't be stunned, which in my opinion that's worth it, because the stuns are very annoying with spellcasters. Finally, we have curse support. We have Profane Bloom. This one is straightforward. It works with literally every build. If you kill something, they have 25% chance to explode, dealing 25% of their maximum life as chaos damage. If your damage isn't high enough, this one will clear everything for you until your damage is high enough. It's mandatory to path over to Malediction. This one is +1 curse, and that's good on literally every single build. And it is 15% increase the effect of your curses. I'm actually utilizing double curses on this build, so I'm not wasting the +1 curse over here. I'm actually using it without having to manually cast it. I have 2 curses that are applied to target on hit. I will get to these once I get to the itemization section. So yeah, that's it for the order of the Ascendancy. Forbidden Power, free power charges, then Vile Bastion so that you can't be stunned, then you go for the curse support. For the tree, as I said, we are scaling life and mana. That's your top priority. And then we have damage and crit. What's actually nice about this build is that you don't have to invest too much into crit and damage. You see, I'm not even taking the lightning damage cluster over here. I'm taking I have some nodes that I didn't path to. I just allocated them with my oil enchant. I did take some crit nodes, but not all of them, as I said. But still, scaling, I have managed to scale 6,000 mana in addition to around 55% crit chance for over 400 crit multi on this build, which is nice. I have life from the Templar side of the tree. We have Light of Divinity, Holy Dominion, the Templar, you know, just like mana scaling from the Templar side of the tree. We have increased the effect of Arcane Surge, the Arcane Surge cluster. This is important because we have Arcane Surge linked on our main 6 link. The reason why we take this node is that if you have a high level Arcane Surge, which you should use if your mana cost is too high, if you cast like your Arc Lightning, you will always proc your level 20 Arcane Surge, and you will have 50% increased effect for it. So that's an easy way to get permanent maximum effect of this node by using Archmage on this build, because if your mana cost is too high, then you will always fulfill the requirement to increase the effect of your Arcane Surge by 10% for every 200 mana spent. I spend like 2000 mana for every cast, so that's permanent 50% increased effect of Arcane Surge, which is the cap on this node. As I said, we have all power charges nodes. I have a mana node, cluster 1 over here, I have all the nodes over here. I have these 2, I have these 3 nodes, basically like all the good mana clusters on the entire passive tree, except the ones at the bottom. We can't reach those. Yeah, that's easy 6000 mana. And we have decent amount of life, almost 4000, but because we are 40% mind over matter, because we are using a Cloak of Defiance, which is a must have on any mana build, that's 40% mitigation to your mana. We regenerate mana so quickly without even the mana recovery mod on Watcher's Eye, and this allows us to like mitigate a high amount of damage from our low amount of life to our mana. So our effective life pool is like 6,000 to 7,000 in this build. Anyway, we have like good amount of damage, good amount of survivability. You should focus on like not getting too low on mana if you are about to take like a powerful hit, because your mana is, you know, that's actually one of the reasons why I don't like going mana builds, because you will have to micromanage your mana. It's both your offense and most of your defense, and sometimes I just like go ham on damage and forget that I have to keep like 20-25% of my mana as an emergency, and just like sometimes end up getting one-shotted because I'm being reckless. But with some practice you can easily like utilize the tankiness of this build by like timing your attacks. Yeah, about jewels now. We have increased maximum mana on every single one of our jewels. You can have increased maximum life. I hate going 2 defensive mods on my jewels. I usually go 1, either life or mana. But because this build we have mana more important than life, I usually go for mana and then like 3 damage mods. But you can go mana life as your prefixes and like double crit as your suffixes, or like just generic increased damage. Here I have mana with like crits and elemental resistances. Here I have mana with triple crit mods. I'd like to have all my jewels like this one, but it's rather expensive because mana builds are pretty popular this league, especially because all mana builds are spellcasters, thanks to Archmage support. So yeah. For Watcher's Eye, we have lots of good options. You can go a defensive increased mana recovery rate while affected by clarity. You can go crit multi with precision. You can go crit chance with wrath. If you have ended up using zealotry instead of wrath, we can't run both. But if you have ended up using zealotry, then you can go with elemental penetration. You can go with a crit chance, increased crit chance for enemies standing on your consecrated ground, because zealotry creates them. They both end up being equal with each other, the crit chance with wrath and the crit mod with zealotry. So it ended up being which one is cheaper for you. If you can easily get a 2-modded Watcher's Eye with zealotry, one of them is zealotry instead of wrath, then go for it. If you can afford wrath and precision, go for it. If you want to have even more mana recovery compared to me, you can go with increased mana recovery rate with clarity, although I don't recommend that because we are not 100% mana build. For those who doesn't know, 100% mana builds are basically builds with the agonistic keystone, the one that uses a Legion jewels that have the agonistic, which sacrifices 20% of your mana to recover life. We are not running that in this build because we need to have energy shield. As I said, with Vile Bastion, you can be stunned while you have energy shield, and if you decide to run the agonistic keystone with that, then you will lose all of your energy shield, because that's the downside of the agonistic. And yeah, that's basically the reason why I didn't feel like the mana recovery mod is so appealing on my Watcher's Eye, and just like decided to go double damage. And yeah, that's it for the passive tree. For items, we have mentioned few of them. We have double void batteries. Each one gives you +1 power charge. That's good with the occultist ascendancy. We have these ones gives you spell damage with power charges, so you will try to either go full power charges or like not use them at all, because each one of these ones by default they reduces your spell damage by 80%, but they give you 25% increased spell damage per power charge. It will be even more useful to run something like Indigon with +1 power charge corruption if you can't afford a helm with +1 seal for skills supported by Unleash, which by the way is a redeemer mod. I'm running Unleash with my Arc Lightning. I will get over the 6 link in a moment, but yeah, we have double void batteries for obvious reasons. Very good scaling with power charges. The cast speed isn't really that important, but like the crit chance we are getting from each +1 maximum power charge, in addition to the crit chance which is on the wand itself. Next we have Cloak of Defiance. This one is good because it gives you 10% of damage taken from mana before life. It gives you 1% mana regen, which is very good considering that we have lots of increased mana regeneration modifiers in this build. It gives you up to 150 mana, which is good. And finally, it gives you Mind Over Matter. This is basically not very important because we are literally 1 passive point away from Mind Over Matter, but now that you don't have to allocate it, you are basically +1 passive point because now you can invest it somewhere else. It also gives you a good amount of evasion and energy shield. It works well with this build because we need to have some like energy shield. It's good because it prevents you from getting one-shotted sometimes if you have full energy shield, so that now energy shield plays a role in defending you alongside life and mana. So yeah, it's like a nice combination of like having all 3 of your main stats, life, mana, energy shield, working together to keep you alive. For your main 6 link, you have Arc linked with level 20 Arcane Surge. Don't worry about going as high as possible on this gem level because you will be able to trigger it with a single cast thanks to our high mana cost. We have Awakened Lightning Penetration support. The normal gem also works just fine. You have Archmage support. This is the gem that drives the entire build. For those who doesn't know what this one does, it makes it so that the mana cost for supported skill equals to 6% of your unreserved maximum mana. That's why you want to stack mana and why you would want to keep it unreserved. Now here's the thing that makes the damage too high. Basically, your supported skill gains added lightning damage. We are talking about flat added lightning damage equal to 100 up to 130. I have the non-awakened version. The awakened version can roll up to 130% of your mana cost as lightning damage. Of course, that's why you would want to drive your mana cost as high as possible in this build. We have Unleash. That's a no-brainer with the Arc Lightning. And finally, Control Destruction. Yes, it reduces your crit chance, but we have too many power charges, and a Diamond Flask, while it's active, you will have around 75% effective crit chance in this build, if not higher. And yeah, it's still like the 40% more spell damage modifier is worth it, actually. Now, how to drive your mana cost high? We have Voidbringer. You will try to get a curse corruption on it, and as high as possible on the increased mana cost of skills. You can have cursed enemies with Enfeeble or Temp Chain as a defensive option and a cheaper option, and you can have cursed enemies with elemental weakness on hit as your like the high end version of this, as the expensive variation. But like you will try to have as high as possible on the increased mana cost of skills, because again, increasing mana cost means more added lightning damage per cast. These gloves also gives you a good amount of energy shield and crit chance for spells up to 150%. So that's lots of damage from a single slot. Here we have a Summon Lightning Golem linked with Wave of Conviction, faster casting, we cast these manually, and finally we have Portal. Next I have a Shaped Ring with curses enemies with Assassin's Mark on hit, unique Shaper mod. You will try to get this alongside life and mana. Assassin's Mark gives you flat crit chance, which increases your base crit, you know, the value that happens to be added together before applying all of your percentage increased crit chance. So if you have like 50% effective crit chance without your flasks. Now you have with level 12 against normal monsters, that's around 80% crit chance. And with Diamond Flask active, that's almost 100% crit chance against like non-bosses. Bosses have 60% reduce the effective curses on them, so it's not a guarantee that you will be always one-shotting unique bosses. Here I have multi-modded into +1 minimum frenzy charges and increased damage prefix. Next, I have Essence Worm with Wrath or Zealotry linked here. As I said, it depends on what offensive Watcher's Eye mod you have. If you have one with Zealotry, then go for it. If you have one with Wrath, then go for it. You don't want to reserve mana on a build like this. That's why we go with Essence Worm. You can run Wrath for free. And yeah, that's how we can get 22% more spell damage without having to reserve anything. Next, for your amulet, we have Adzira's Foible, lots of mana and mana regen, pretty straightforward. It's allow you to equip gems and items with 25% reduced attribute requirements. This may seem useless at first until you realize that you don't have too much space to invest into like generic attribute strength, dexterity to use like strength and dexterity gems. This one came in clutch for me and allowed me to use some gems like Swift Affliction without having to be too high on dexterity, so that makes gearing a little bit easier. Next, for belt, you are going for Stygian Vice with life, mana, resistances, and armor or evasion as your last prefix. You can craft damage if you have enough resistances. I had to craft hybrid resistance over here. The reason why we go with Stygian Vice is because we can have an Abyss Jewel with life and mana, and by default other belts they can't have mana as a implicit, and you would want to have both, so an Abyss Jewel will be able to like give you both of them. That's why Stygian Vice, Stygian Vices are always good for like end game option. Finally, for your helm, we have a Redeemer influenced rare helm. Why Redeemer? Because Redeemer influence can roll +1 seal to all skills supported by Unleash. This is basically a powerful boost to damage against single target like bosses. By default, the skills supported by Unleash have the maximum of 3 seals, which means that you will have the damage of the primary cast in addition to 3 repeats, so that's almost 400% total damage. The repeat will have 10% less damage, so you will be basically having 1 cast and 3 additional casts at 90% efficiency. And with increasing the seals by 1 means that now you will have, instead of 400% damage, you have 500% damage against single target. This is useful only given the fact that you actually wait until you build up to your maximum number of seals before casting your Arc Lightning. So you will need to be patient and keep a lookout on the counter number that you have on your Arc Lightning skill, which tells you how many seals your Arc Lightning have at any given time. And you might want to time that in your mind so that I have to wait like 3 seconds between my casts, because after approximately 3 seconds I will have built up 4 seals. Now you can have an additional seal from the passive tree from the node that usually happens to be over here. It gives you 30% crit chance and +1 seal, so that now you can have up to 5 seals. The reason why I have decided not to go for that and went for this one instead, because I have noticed that I'm not always waiting to have 5 seals. Like, the more seals you have, if you want to utilize all of them, then you will have to like wait even more between every Arc Lightning cast, unless you are able to build up like seals very quickly with the help from some cluster jewels, notables. And because I don't have enough passive points to invest into cluster jewels and take the notables that are responsible to increase the seal recovery speed for skills supported by Unleash, I have decided not to go for 5 seals. But if you have decided to go with a cluster jewel setup, then you will definitely want to go with 5 seals by taking the notable over here. Anyway, going back to your helm and gems socketed into it, we have a 4-lane cast when damage taken setup. I have level 10 cast when damage taken linked with summon lightning golem. I don't have time to like summon this every time. When I take damage, this gem will summon it for me. I have Arcane Cloak. Sometime you will take a very high burst damage that you will not like be fast enough to trigger Arcane Cloak manually, and cast when damage taken will trigger that for you. Finally, I have Wave of Conviction. This is not required. You can have like any other gem over here, but if we take damage, then triggering Wave of Conviction will lower enemy monster resistance by 25%. So when you retaliate, it will be more powerful after they get hit with Wave of Conviction. Finally, we have a small aura setup over here. We have level 3 Enlighten linked with level 1 Precision and level 1 Clarity. The Precision is here to proc the crit multi-mod on my Watcher's Eye. Still, even if you don't have that, you are paying 22 mana for 20% crit chance, which is worth it. For Clarity, it's debatable between people whether you should go as high as possible on this one. It does not reserve percentage mana from your maximum mana. It just like reserves a flat value. It is not low, but like remember that if you have reserved mana, then you will have less damage because your damage is based on your 6% of your unreserved mana, which is the base mana cost of skill, which we are trying to drive as high as possible. So having less unreserved mana, meaning that you will have less added flat lightning damage from Archmage support. For our last gem setup, I have a 4-link Lightning Warp linked with less duration, faster casting, and Swift Affliction. This makes it so that Lightning Warp is almost instantaneous. Okay, now let's talk about your flasks. We have a Quicksilver Flask with immunity to curses. We have an Enduring Mana Flask with immunity to ignite. Ignite deals damage over time, which is bad because damage over time is the only thing that can permanently breaks your energy shield. If you don't have energy shield, then you will be stunned, and that's deadly for casters. And the other source of damage over time is poison, which we are immune to thanks to our Pantheon. That's how you basically become immune to damage over time and maintain like some level of energy shield to be immune to stuns with the help from the Ascendancy. Next we have a very mandatory flask, which is Cinder Swallow Urn. This one recovers life, mana, energy shield as you kill stuff up to 3% each, so that now if you hit a monster pack with a wave of arc lightning, you will wipe them out and instantly recover 100% of your mana. We have a diamond flask. That's pretty straightforward for crit builds. We have immunity to bleed rolled on it. Finally, I have a phasing flask with immunity to freeze and chill. Now, one thing I didn't talk about is actually our mana cost, which is almost 3000. Increasing mana cost, anything that increases your mana cost is good. We have talked about your gloves. They can increase your mana cost by around 80%. Here we have a jewel called Fevered Mind, which is considered a brick by many people. The only way to get this is by valing a cobalt jewel, and it might brick into this one. By default, it gives you increased spell damage and increases the mana cost of your spells as like a downside. But because in this build, increasing mana cost increases our total damage, we have two mods over here that increases your damage, and this ends up being like almost just as powerful as a Watcher's Eye. Like we are talking like one of the most powerful jewels in the game, and that kinda tells you how powerful is increasing the mana cost of your skills. For bandits, we help Alira because she gives you mana regen, crit multi, elemental resistances, and all three of these modifiers are very useful for us. And yeah, that's it for the build. If you guys have enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, my name is Phoenix, and I will see you all in the next video.